rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick, and you'll have to excuse me here. I was running a little late today in my preparation, and so I didn't get the microphone in the exact right spot. So there we go. I think I got it. All right. So tonight, of course, we have a good show for you. I've got a couple of things that Harris is not going to be happy about. Also, too, Hezbollah is really not happy due to some things that happened over the last couple of days. I alluded to one of them yesterday, but now we've got a little bit more details in terms of what's going on. So I'll be able to discuss that a little bit more in depth. But first, I have a new submission for the round table for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, I'd like to welcome G, also known as Wooden on social media. He sent me this a couple of days ago, and it just took me until tonight to get it actually into the format that I would need in order to go ahead and play it. So, if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hat, if you have one, place your hand over your heart, and follow along with G, otherwise known as Wooden, in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank him for that wonderful rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. As always, I do appreciate all of my Whiskey Warrior P1s and others who send those in. Oh, I guess I'm pronouncing it wrong. It's Woden. Woden. Not Woden, or, well, anyway, Woden. And, buddy, technically, no, I can't see you because you're in the chat. All right, I was pronouncing it wrong. It's Woden. So there we go. Welcome, Woden. Thank you very much for that fantastic rendition. If you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance done here on the program, you can do that by recording yourself audio style. I will take video, but I am not going to play the video. I'll cut it. I'll take it just for the audio portion because, of course, we have to have the flag going. But you can send it to me by, record yourself doing it, of course, and then send me that file. Send it in to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans at AmericanPerspective.online. And there goes Buddy. He right there. He's right there in the Rumble chat with the link. Got it going on there. All right, tonight's sponsor. Tonight's sponsor is, of course, TGRN. But before I get to them, I've got to tell you, tonight is Whiskey Wednesday.
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
And, of course, Whiskey Wednesday is like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. Well, tonight I've got a new one to me, maybe not to any of you, but this is an aged 10-year Henry McKenna single barrel Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. This is what it looks like on the label. There it is. It's a 10-year, and they individually number. See that? They individually number the barrels and the date of when, and I think that's the date. Of when it was bottled, or when it was barreled, I should say. This one was barreled on 28/20 of 2013. So August 20th. So it's a little over 14 years as of 11 years as of right now. And of course, I am drinking it out of my True Grit Roots Network glass with the stones in the bottom. So this is my first taste of this bottle. First taste. That's actually pretty good. That may actually go into the list of go ahead and buy whenever possible. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, we can head right into tonight's sponsor, who is, of course, True Grit Roots Network. That's right. True Grit Roots Network, TGRN, found at the web address of tgrn.net. You can head on over to tgrn.net. You can listen right in your browser to our channel, TGRN Blues. 24/7, 365 blues put together by fantastic artists and independent creators, not to mention the fact our on-air personalities, which bring you a rare view of the blues from their perspective. They've got umpteen millions of years. I don't know about the millions part, but definitely umpteen years of experience in the blues. And they can bring all of that experience and knowledge and love of the blues to you just by listening to TGRN Blues. Let me tell you about one of our fantastic shows that we have. This one isn't specific to any one particular on-air personality, but rather is a great little break throughout the day called the Blue Plate Special. Come and have lunch with the TGRN Blues crew weekdays, Monday through Friday, from noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. That's Central Time in America. Central Time, featuring tasty blues and R&B cuts from our own kitchen. It's a great way to enjoy lunch together. Join hosts Vinnie Marini, Jonathan Oogie Richards, Holly Harris, and Memphis Mark for the Blue Plate Special on TGRN Blues. That airs weekdays, like I said, 12 p.m., so noon to 1 Central Time. And so it's a great product. You can get it, check it out. And they all, by the way, the days that those guys and ladies, can't forget them, the days that those guys and ladies go and do their shows, they also have their own shows later on that day, such as for Vinnie Marini, Music on the Couch. For Jonathan Oogie Richards, you have Mighty Mouth Blues. For Holly Harris, it's King Street Blues. And of course, for Memphis Mark, we have From the Delta to Beale. And you can check all of those out Monday through Friday, later on in the day, too. Also at our station, TGRN, True Grit Roots Network, TGRN.net, TGRN Blues, all based out of Austin, Texas. All right. Oh, my goodness. So much has happened. There was another supposed attempt on the president's life, although there's some sketchy, questionable details that are coming out, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But apparently there was a possible, not quite confirmed, sort of like the DNC bomb back on January 6th, found at a upcoming Trump rally, which I think is the one that's on this rally. But anyway, it's the rally that's going on right now, I think. But anyway, they found, buddy, it's 100 proof. So there you go. So anyway, they found a potentially quote unquote explosive device in a car. And the reason why I'm saying that I'm questioning it is because there are some reports that are coming out that it was a training exercise for a bomb sniffing dog, that it actually wasn't a real device. But again, God, right now, the way that the news cycle is going, less than 24 hours, and all of this shit, and I'm sorry about the four-letter word, but all of this shit just coming out as fast as it is, and of course, knowing that Trump is the target that he is, anything can happen. I'm just telling you, and it's going to get even worse. It's going to be rolling much faster as we get down, because we're now sub 48 days, I think, or 47 days to the election. Early voting is happening right now, and pretty much the electorate, for the most part, has, like, you know, split. And the number of independent voters or voters that are undecided is actually, according to at least a look at by CNN, is down to about 4% now. So we're just going to have to see. Man, my blood pressure is going to go up all up until the election. And I hope to be able to be streaming. I'm planning on streaming on election night to see what the heck happens. See, now I'm on the Pacific Coast, so half the time the election has already been called by the time our polls close here on the coast. Not that it really matters much, because, of course, now that I'm a little older, I understand that, you know, Oregon, Washington, and California, they freaking always get called for the Democrats. That's why we're known as the left coast over here, even though there's several good people who are conservatives and who are Republicans who live in these areas. But still, we always get called. And, of course, you know, the road to the White House is to obtain 270 electoral college votes. And so by the time you guys get done with all of your stuff and it gets over to us here on the West Coast, chances are somebody already has 270 votes at that moment. So I totally understand it. And I'm still amazed at the number of people who seem to think that the popular vote actually matters or counts for something. And there's a gentleman on X that's been telling me that the popular vote, you know, and statistically speaking, according to him, only 10%, only 10% of the time does somebody not win the popular vote, but yet wins the Electoral College. And I haven't responded to him responded back to him after that, and other than by saying that essentially the Electoral College is what decides the president. Doesn't matter what I mean, correlation does not equal causation. So, I mean, you could say it's 100% of the time that somebody loses the popular vote. Okay. And, you know, goes ahead and moves on to president. No, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because in the Constitution, it's the Electoral College that makes that possible. And speaking of getting to 270, Mark over on Facebook says, "Hey, Whiskey, let's get you to 270 thumbs up." That would be fantastic. I would love for that to happen. So anyway, all right. So first things first, there was a CBS reporter. Now, you've seen stuff like this go on in the past. I mean, CNN had, you know, their little focus groups in that barbershop, and you know, NBC had their little focus group of, you know, Black Americans. And, you know, these media outlets do not seem to understand that the mainstream of America, for the most part, either A, wants to vote Trump, or B, doesn't know a damn thing about Kamala Harris and isn't sure about whether or not they want to vote for her. Well, Nevada is a toss-up state, although it only has like 6 electoral college votes. It really isn't that big of a particular scenario when it comes to swaying, although it could come down to who gets Nevada. Potentially, I mean, you know, if the cards are played just right in the Electoral College, it could come down to that. However, this CBS reporter here, according to LifeZet, they went into Nevada, and a CBS reporter is shocked by what Nevada diners are really saying about Harris in 2024. So let's take a second and take a look at some of the reactions by these folks. Here. Oop, sorry. My bad.
In every single restaurant of the people willing to talk to us, we could only find one Harris supporter in every restaurant. And we left no stone unturned. I approached every single person. We had so much fun. But what was really incredible is in every single restaurant of the people willing to talk to us, we could only find one Harris supporter in every restaurant.
Okay. So I let that loop because you guys missed the first part of it due to my ineptitude. I hit the ID 10T key. Anyway, so yes, somebody out there is going to be like ID 10T. Anyway, write it out on a piece of paper. I guarantee you'll figure it out when you do. But anyway, I had to play it. Had to play it again just so you guys could hear the first part of it. But basically, what they're saying is they walked into restaurants and they asked people, what do they think about Kamala Harris? And, are you voting for Kamala Harris or Trump? And these people, like they said, they went into several restaurants and they could only deal or find one singular Kamala Harris supporter out of every restaurant that they tried. That's one reporter. Now, here they go into it a little bit more detail about it than just that clip. So they went to a Reno barbecue joint where there was a group of women gathered around the table to chat about immigration, and their stance, meaning the ladies' stance, was pretty clear. People are coming here for asylum? Baloney. They're coming here for the freebies, one of them remarked, summing up the frustration that many Americans feel about unchecked immigration policies. In North Las Vegas, they went to a man dining in a Mexican restaurant who voiced his irritation with inflation, using tacos as his examples. He says, tacos used to be what? $1? $1.50? After the pandemic, they didn't go under $3. And there it is. His comment cuts right to the heart of the issue. The rising cost of living has hit everyone, and working class folks are feeling the pinch. I got a little bit about that here in just a few minutes. Also, too, a place called Pahrump, Pahrump, wasn't any different. It was a local diner where a woman criticized the government's reckless spending and inflation woes. She said, I think they think if they keep throwing money at it, it will fix the problem. It's the same as an old house. Oh, let's just keep fixing it. Sometimes the solution is to tear it down and rebuild. So yeah. Anyway. So they keep running into this same thing over and over and over. Okay. And hey, I can even tell you this because this just in from our Australian contingent. Becky says, not that it counts for much of Trump's popularity is growing down here in Australia. Thank you for that. Of course, his popularity, I mean, most people see his... Now, look, let's be completely honest. Not everybody is going to like Trump personally. They just don't. I myself have said I probably would never have even been around Trump at all if it came to a personal nature. But that being said, I don't have to like the guy. I don't have to like him. I don't have to be on par with his personal feelings and aspirations to know that his policies for the presidency is important, that he knows what needs to get done in order to move our country in the correct direction, the direction that we have been veering off from, especially over the course of the last 3+ years. Okay? You don't have to like your congressman. You could think your congressman is an ass. But as long as he votes, he or she, you could think of her as a bitch. But as long as he or she will go and vote the proper way in order to improve Americans' lives, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So, So, again, there's a lot of people, as Bonnie points out over on Rumble, there's a lot of people that I do not like personally, but I get along with. You may not like your boss, but your boss could be a fantastic manager. Are you going to let that boss and your personal feelings toward him or her, you're going to let that boss not be your manager if they're a fantastic manager, but they're a bit of an ass? Do you think that's going to matter? Well, no, not to you while you're working. I mean, if you're planning on taking the person out to drinks or something like that and hanging out with them on a personal level, of course. But there's often times where I've had managers in my career that I didn't like, but they were good managers for the most part. So I'm just fine with him doing his thing and being the way that he is personally. I'm not the one who's married to him. I'm not the one who has to deal with his, affairs or any of that stuff. But what I do have to deal with is the fact that he needs to make absolutely certain that he governs this country and from the president's office in the best way possible, and with the mindset and focus on making sure that America is moving in the correct direction, meaning moving in what is literally, in my mind, the strict constitutional conservative direction. That's essentially what's going on. And a lot of people I know, especially those on the left, can't seem to separate their personal emotions and feelings about an individual from the factual reality of, is he or she a good person to govern this country? I can tell you right now that because of the fact that we have such a presumably close race, that's why. Well, some further news that Kamala Harris is probably not going to be liked or not liking is here in Just the News. And this actually came out just about an hour or two ago. So now I'm going to tell you, I disagree with this first statement, but that's okay. Teamsters decline presidential endorsement for the first time in decades after members back Trump. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this seems like a big red flag to demonstrate that whenever a union, in particular this one, but whenever a union backs a presidential candidate, more than likely it is their upper management that is doing it and not the rank and file. And this is a perfect example of this exactly occurring. So the Teamsters itself, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, said today that they were declining to endorse either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. And that they have chosen to sit out the presidential election, which of course is marking the first time since 1996 that it didn't do. Now, here's the thing. This is the claim. This is the claim. I'm not saying this is true, but this is the claim. It's saying neither major candidate was able to make serious commitments to our union to ensure the interests of working people are always put before big business, said the Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien with The Hill. And here's the thing, okay? The Teamsters, the rank and file. All right, and I got to find oh, they didn't say it. Shoot. The polling, well, wait a minute. Here, there's a link. Maybe I didn't open it in time. Hold on, let me go take a look at this. I got to go take a look. Hold on. Yeah. So here it is. Trump won 27 points over Harris in the Teamsters union poll. Here it is, right here. The union's phone poll showed 58% of its members backed Trump, while 31% backed Harris. 6% were undecided, 5% did not know, which I don't understand why you would have a choice between undecided and don't know. That doesn't seem to make any sense. But anyway, Trump's margin increased in the electronic member poll, of which 59.6% of the respondents are backing him, compared to 34% who preferred Harris and 6.4% who wanted someone else. I don't know about you, but that tells me maybe as the union representative, the union presidents, they should be like, you know what? Our membership says that we're going to back Trump, so we're going to go ahead and back Trump and endorse him. But they didn't, which by itself is very telling. That just, I mean, come on, folks, let's be real. That's like a almost like 60-30 with 10%. I mean, seriously, this is like a overwhelming majority here. Why can't you do what your members are telling you to do, which is essentially back Trump? You know, for those people who are all that much about democracy, you would think that they would say, well, that's a democratic decision. Let's go ahead and back Trump. Yeah. So that's why I sit here and kind of chuckle, honestly, and potentially laugh a little bit. Well, chuckle is a laugh, I guess, but it's more of like a small laugh. But still, I chuckle whenever I see a union like the United Auto Workers, like the Teamsters, come out and talk about, Democrats, because traditionally, all of the unions, for the most part, would go Democrat, because traditionally speaking, the Democrats were the party of the working man. Well, that's changing, folks. And sooner or later, these people are going to have to get on board with the fact that the Republicans have actually pulled the working people to the Republican Party. So, yeah. Anyway. All right. Really quick message here on Arizona. Now, you know how the left keeps talking about elections and election interference and things like, oh, the elections were like the most safe and secure back in 2020. And, nothing happened. There wasn't any shenanigans at all. Really? Well, here we go again, folks. Here we go again. This in Arizona, put out by Just the News. Arizona admits that nearly 100,000 non-citizen voters wrongly listed on voter rolls amid a lawsuit. Non-citizens lawfully residing in Arizona shouldn't be registered to vote since they are labeled as non-citizens on their driver's license. This is former Arizona Assistant Attorney General Jennifer Wright stated. However, they found nearly 100,000 voters who had not provided proof of U.S. citizenship but still had voting privileges, as the state is facing a lawsuit for not removing non-citizen voters from its voter rolls. Folks, I'm telling you, illegals are voting, and the Democrats are looking at it and saying, that's not happening, but it's good that it is. That's exactly what's happening here. Close to 100,000 voters are incorrectly registered in Arizona as proving their U.S. citizenship, with one green card holder found registered with full voting privileges. The 20-year-old error that caused this was discovered as the state is being sued for not searching for and removing non-citizens from its voter registrations lists. Now, Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes explained Tuesday that there was an error in the state systems that labeled roughly 97,000 voters as providing documented proof of U.S. citizenship. Yeah. Yep. Now remember, all of this, of course, comes from the motor voter, the 1993 voter bill, done by the Democrats, by the way, under Clinton and the Democrat Congress at the time, to push for the voter registration to be tied to the driver's license, and make it so that when you went in to get your driver's license, you could just check a box that said, yeah, I certify that I am a citizen, but never checking whether or not that person actually is a proper U.S. citizen. This is exactly why I'm telling you, why I've been saying over and over and over again, I'm sorry, but I believe that the United States government should essentially take the U.S. passport, give it to everybody. That should be just an automatic ID. No matter what happens, when you turn 18, you immediately get your passport. And just like, signing up for the Selective Service, it should just become an automatic. And sending it out immediately, and that should be the only ID that is acceptable when it comes to elections. So anyway, the error itself was discovered by a Maricopa County worker who found a registered voter who hadn't provided proof of U.S. citizenship but was listed as a voter who could cast ballots in both federal and state elections. Remember that state law that I told you about, that if you can prove that you are a citizen, you will get a state ballot as well as a federal ballot. If you can't, you only get a federal ballot. And that's how Arizona ran it for a very long time. The voter had a green card, but never cast a ballot, Fontes had said. So, yeah. Anyway, the error itself has occurred for about 20 years in over 4 different administrations, he had noted. Yeah. So they're about ready to send out military and overseas voter ballots. Tomorrow is when it's scheduled. So, telling you folks, they like this. They want this to happen. They enjoy this. That's what they're looking for. They want this to happen because it's easy to go ahead and, of course, manipulate the results, which is exactly what they're looking to do. Speaking of manipulation, I know this segue is really kind of tough, but speaking of manipulation, the Fed has manipulated the interest rates today. And it's actually larger than what I expected. But by larger, I'm talking about still a very small amount. That in just a moment, let me get to. You see this wonderful shirt that I'm wearing. It is a representation of the U.S. flag in a polo format. And let me tell you, I've got this and several other shirts. This one is this one's part of the cotton polo collection in the men's section of theflagshirt.com. Head on over to theflagshirt.com and check out all of their patriotic styles. They've got some fantastic ones. I wear them here on the program. And if you watch the video, you'll see I wear them quite often. It's not very often that I'm not wearing one. But that being said, make sure you go over to theflagshirt.com and check out all of their styles. And you know what? They have a constant offer where if you order $75 or more worth of product, what you will end up with is free shipping on them. So they will give you free shipping if you order $75 worth of product. But I know that not everybody can order $75 worth of stuff. So I went ahead and secured for you a very special deal. If you go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, you can grab okay, you can grab a coupon code that'll give you $5 off your order at theflagshirt.com. Once again, go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, and there you will get a coupon code that you can then grab and take that and put that into the promo box at checkout at theflagshirt.com to get $5 off your order. That's right. $5 off by going to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, grabbing that promo code and sticking it in the promo code section of the checkout portion at theflagshirt.com. Head on over to theflagshirt.com. Check out all of their styles, men's, women's, children, as well as all the American patriotized accessories. It is veteran-owned, veteran-operated, based out of, I believe it's Florida. So go and check them out at theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. Okay. Well, the Fed has decided to slash rates. Slashing them. They're slashing them. Well, to me, I would think a slashed rate would be like, hey, we're at 5%. We're going to slash it down to 2.5. Well, that hasn't worked. That isn't what they did. But they did do more than what I was expecting. And if you have turned into this program in earlier episodes, a couple earlier episodes, either this week into last week, I was talking about how the Fed might do a 1/4 point. I was off. They went ahead and slashed it. CNBC's words, not mine. Slashed interest rates by 1/2 point. Yes, they've taken those interest rates and they have whipped them into shape by cutting it back by 1/2 percentage point. Now, the CNBC, of course, is calling it an aggressive start to its first easing campaign in 4 years. And yes, they did cut it down. This is the first time they've gone backwards. Instead of going up, they're going down. But realistically, I mean, 1/2 percent, not really that much, to be honest with you. Yeah. So anyway, they chose to lower their key overnight borrowing rate by 1/2 percentage point, what they call 50 basis points, amid signs that inflation is moderating and the labor market is weakening. These are the two key indicators that they are attempting to try and tell you that are specific to them. They don't want the labor market to be weakening. Well, the labor market, if you haven't noticed, in the last 6 months, the labor market has taken a serious hit because the Biden administration has been pointing out more and more, we've got, low unemployment. Well, when you look at the numbers, the unemployment rates haven't really gotten low. In fact, they haven't really gone much lower than what they were under Trump. But yet they were able to cut out those 818,000 jobs in this last round of true up numbers, which the mainstream media or any of the mainstream outlets didn't even bother to talk about. But 818,000 jobs were cut back just a month or two ago. Yeah. So anyway, so the committee itself has gained greater confidence that inflation is moving sustainably towards 2%. Well, it just went back up by 0.2 here just last month. So I'm not exactly sure that would be considered sustainably moving towards 2%. Because it did fall below 3, but then it just gained a 0.2 percentage points. So we'll have to see next month if it goes back up again. But anyway, the Dow at the time, of course, rallied a little bit. But then at close, it actually lost 100 points. Because it rallied to almost 400 points at the time that the Fed rate cut was announced. And then it dropped below and lost 100 points overall for the entire day. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure that we're necessarily out of the woods with this stagnation, inflation, stagflation kind of scenario. But hey, one of the big things that the Biden administration and the Harris administration, because we all know that Biden doesn't do anything. Biden's on short timer syndrome. He is ready to go. He's ready to take off. He's ready to leave. He's pissed about the fact that he has to leave. But all of that being said, one of the things that the Harris administration has been talking about is the fact that, hey, wages are in fact increasing and they are going up higher than inflation. Well, that's only partially right. See, one thing that, of course, the Biden-Harris administration and all of the sycophantic left-wing pundits that are out there have been saying about wages is not 100% correct, because Americans' wages haven't really recovered from the 9.1% inflation that we hit 18 months after Biden became president. That's right. And here is a study from Bankrate that essentially proves it. Study. Americans' pay hasn't fully recovered from inflation. Will it ever? So they have a graph in here, and they kind of talk about the different stuff. 13 years, a 3% annual salary boost, so on and so forth. 3-4%, that seems to be standard at a lot of places. My parents always told me if you get anything less than 10%, you're not doing a very good job. But anyway, the point is that the wage to inflation index, and here's the graph right here. I got it right here in front of you. So here's the graph. The green line, or the kind of a aqua colored line that's on the top, is inflation. And as you can see, inflation has absolutely moved higher and faster from January 1 of 2021 until now. However, the purple line, the lavender line, whatever kind of color you want to call it, the line that's on the bottom, shows that wages have actually been increasing steadily. There hasn't been a big jump. They've just been going up at a very steady rate in terms of wage growth. Folks, this is why this impact right here is part of the reason why we have such a problem in our economy today. What the left and the left pundits and the White House are ignoring and not telling you is that even though inflation has come down, we still haven't recovered from when inflation ballooned up to the greatest it's been in 40 years. This is the problem. Wages haven't kept up with inflation. They haven't caught up with inflation yet. And the thing about it is that it's going to take probably another 3, 4, 5 years, honestly, for them to catch up. This is why. This is why people are hurting and struggling. Yes, inflation may be coming down, but the impacts of not only inflation itself and the impacts of prices rising over 20% in the last 3 years. Combine that with the amount of wage gain, which is none. We've actually lost value on our wages. And you essentially have a big problem, and why the economy to the average American looks like it is a crap hole. The economy, folks, is going to be the biggest issue that is on Americans' minds in the kitchen table today. Now, further down here in the piece, which, by the way, I encourage you, I take all of the pieces, all of the websites, anything, generally anything that I reference here is in the video description. There are links in the video description, so you can go and take all of those out. You know, and you can read these yourself. You can take a look and read these yourself. But one thing that is pointed out, that currently, if things work out the way that they are, I said, 3, 4, 5 years, but according to this, the wages will actually increase enough to meet up with inflation by Q2 of 2025, according to this chart that I'm showing here. Now, that just means that your wages actually get to a point where it's a net zero. You're no longer losing, but you're not gaining any. So in order to make up for this big gap that we have from 2021 all the way up until 2025, it's going to take an additional 2, 3, 4 years, depending upon what inflation does, to make up for the gap that we have been dealing with over the course of the last 3 years. So wages also, by the way, recently have lost some momentum. It's not quite going all straight up. They've actually lost momentum here in a little bit, just a tiny bit. But, honestly, we're in such a questionable scenario with regards to the economy that honestly, I don't see that we're actually going to get back on track or back on par with anything in at least until the next election cycle comes around, if we even have it, from 2024 to 2028. Now, one other thing out of the piece here in particular is that not all people are going to share the same experience. That wages and wage increases and keeping up with inflation have a lot to do with the industry that you're in. Some industries have been really good, other industries not quite so good. And so, yeah, we're going to have some serious challenges here. However, one thing that the Democrats have been pushing is the fact that the unemployment rate is low. Well, I'm just going to point out a couple of things here. So this is pre-pandemic, is this line over here to the left of the big bump. Okay. So this line, as you can see, starting off at 3/1 of 2019, which would basically be March 1st, the unemployment rate was at 3.8. Then it dropped to 3.7, went to 3.6, came back up a little bit, stayed at 3.6, came back up a little bit to 3.7. This is through the last half of 2019, dropped down to 3.6, went to 3.5, 3.6, 3.6, 3.6, 3.6. We hit the pandemic at 3.5, and that was February 1st of 2020. Then it rose all the way on March of 2020 to 14.8. Well, then it's been dropping, and kind of flattening out a little bit, slowly coming back down until it's hit in 2021. It hit a low point at 3.6. Well, wait a second. 3.6. Hold on. I think I recall seeing a 3.5 pre-pandemic. And we kind of go through this and it levels off around 3.5, 3.6. So it matches. Oh, there's a 3.4 on 1/1 of 2023. It finally hit 3.4, 0.1% lower than what it was under Trump before the pandemic. And it hit 3.4 again. So this entire time, the Biden administration has been talking about how the unemployment rate was less than when Trump was in office. That's a lie. And we're finally looking at unemployment rates of 4.3 and 4.2 respectively in the last 2 months. So, yeah. So anyway, this is, again, this administration lies. It just lies about everything that it does. It lies about what's going on. It lies about everything that it touches. Tries to make you think that we're doing absolutely stellar. We're not. We're not doing any better. We are not better off than we were under Trump, period. We are not better off than we were under Trump. And I would love to have a conversation. Many of these leftists on the social medias were talking about how gas prices are coming down, inflation's coming down, interest rates coming down. And I just simply point out they're not at the levels that they were under Trump. That's all you have to know. All right, let's move out into the realm of the international scene. Folks, I got to tell you, the Mossad, the Israeli Mossad, one of the most feared and respected organizations, intelligence organizations around the world. And let me just tell you, folks, they have pulled off some incredible operations. I don't know if anybody remembers, but there was I know there's been movies made about it. There's been comments made about it. There's been all kinds of conversations back when it happened as to who did this, who did what, and where and why. But I can tell you this much. If you recall, not that long ago, I'm talking like probably 15 years or so, when Iran was getting closer and closer to a nuclear device. They were enriching uranium without any checks and balances. The International Atomic Agency was saying that, hey, these guys are really up there. And somehow, the Israeli Mossad was able to create a virus that they planted in the Iranian centrifuges and caused them to go wibbly wobbly. Now, I can tell you this much. That making a centrifuge go wibbly wobbly makes it go boom. And the Israeli Mossad was able to do that. Put the Iranians back probably 10 to maybe 15 years in their development. Okay? Now, according to 3 Chevy, they're telling me that they disguised it as an update. 3 Chevy over on Rumble, keeping me honest, just like they always do. They disguise it as some sort of an update to the centrifuge's software. Take a look up Stuxnet. Look up Stuxnet, and that'll give you all kinds of information about it. But here's the thing. The Mossad has had a history of successfully pulling these things like this off, seemingly against all sorts of odds. Now, 2 days ago, a series of people in Jordan, okay, and I'm saying people. Also, too, keep in mind, the Israeli company NSO created the Pegasus scenario, okay, which I personally am a little irritated. And for those of you that may not be as technically inclined as what I am, Pegasus is a methodology that you can essentially send a text message to a phone. And the Pegasus application, we'll call it, can essentially take over that phone, and you as the user don't even know that it's even happening because it's done in the background. Pegasus is considered a rootkit, and it gives the sending entity full control over the phone. Now, you have full control. Like, they can turn on cameras, they can turn on microphones off and on, they can do all kinds of things. All kinds of things with the Pegasus virus. In fact, the FBI actually has Pegasus as well, and that caused, I don't know if anybody remembers, but that caused a bit of concern for a lot of people here not too long ago. This is probably within 5 years, because I remember talking about it on this program, and this program is only about 4.5 years old. So anyway, the Israeli Mossad and the Israelis themselves are incredibly efficient at what they're doing. So here's what happened 2 days ago. Now, Hezbollah has, and they want to keep all of their communications secret. That's what they do. That's what you do when you're a terrorist or a criminal. You don't want people to know what you're necessarily doing or talking about. And so what ended up happening is, after Pegasus came out, and after the information started flowing on the internet and started saying, hey, if you're like an iOS user or whatever, we've got all kinds of ways to tap into your phone, etc., etc., etc. And what ended up happening is Hezbollah, as one of many organizations, decided, well, we're not going to succumb. We're not going to succumb to the whims of up-to-date technology. We're going to start using older technology. And so what they did is they decided, we're going back to pagers and beepers. Well, somehow, the Israeli Mossad discovered this, and they successfully intercepted shipments of beepers that were going to Hezbollah, and were able to place a plastic explosive. And I'm being told by one of my rumblers that it's PETN, plastic explosives, into the beepers next to the battery. Well, 2 days ago, and you're asking why? Why put it next to the battery? Well, apparently there was a flaw in the pager software that would allow someone remotely to tell the battery to start heating up. And as that battery heated up, it would then trigger the plastic explosive that was put in to the battery. Now, PETN, or whatever plastic explosive that was actually used, is a extremely powerful explosive, meaning you don't need very much to make a big boom. Well, here's a video of one of their explosions. We're going to watch this one more time, because I know that while I was increasing the screen, you didn't see it all, but here. Folks, for those of you who are on the audio portion of the program, let me just explain. There's a man standing in a fruit market, a produce market. He's standing in front of what appears to be limes. He's got a satchel, like a saddlebag or a satchel bag, and he's got it in his satchel bag, and what you see on the video is the thing exploding. It's on his leg, and you can hear his screams of pain. because obviously it was close to his leg and thigh. Now, what happened here is technically about 2,700 plus of these guys. Definitely not Karen says it's a purse. Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, this went on all at virtually the same time across a whole bunch of Jordanian personnel, people in Jordan, who are apparently all part of Hezbollah. And they blew it up. Now, reports are that there are roughly 12 that actually got killed. Many of them were maimed. There were some that had like their hands blown off, some that had their eyes because they were looking at the beeper and they were, watching as the plastic shrapnel from the beeper exploding got into their eyes. There also are reports of some that had their, let's just say, a few important sexual organs damaged, because if you're a guy and you stick that beeper in your pocket, guess how close you are to the family jewels. So anyway, this occurred 2 days ago. Well, and of course, because of the time change, it happened overnight during those 2 days. There's some people that really got hurt. Well, Israel was able to do it again. Here in the Daily Wire, Israel detonates an additional thousands of Hezbollah walkie-talkies. So not only did they set up the pagers, but they also set up walkie-talkies. So obviously when the pagers went off, and even if some of them didn't go off, the fact of the matter, and by the way, reports are coming in that some of these people who had those pagers, they felt them heating up and they pulled them out of their pants pockets, and a few of them were able to throw them away and get them away from them before they blew up. And that's how some reports went out through the Hezbollah network. And so some of them were able to get the beepers and stuff and basically save their private parts and other parts from being maimed. Those are some of the reports that are still coming in based on that. Well, Israel apparently does it again with walkie-talkies, because now that the pagers are gone, Hezbollah resorted back to walkie-talkies, and they apparently were also booby-trapped in the same way by Mossad, and they conducted the second wave essentially yesterday or this morning. So, and there's video of a person, too, by the way. There's a video of a person, I don't have it, but I've seen it, where it's a gentleman who's standing in the middle of a crowd, what appears to be a crowded marketplace. He's holding a radio up and he's going to use it, and it blows and he ends up on the ground. No, it's not known whether or not that person is dead or just seriously injured. But yeah, I guess the term F around and find out, after sending thousands of bombs into Israel, Israel finally said, we're done, and initiated this particular response. So now Hezbollah, of course, is really pissed off. I mean, I would be too, but let's just put it in perspective. If you're not doing anything bad, okay. Oh, I'm being told that there is a possibility, or at least I'm being told by definitely not Karen over on Rumble, that the the person with the walkie-talkie blowing up on video was actually at a funeral for one of the victims of the pagers. So they were at a funeral, they were using a radio, and that blew off. I'm sorry. I know I'm laughing. I probably, the loss of human life is one thing, but these people, they literally are animals. I'm sorry. They're just, they rape, they kill, they murder, they indiscriminately, they don't care. All they care about is whether or not Israelis and Westerners in general are wiped off of this planet. So unfortunately, I mean, I'm not, it's sad. It's tragic. Not really. I'm frankly glad that Israel was able to do that. I think it's very, very effective, very devious, and just incredible. But hey, you know what? Props to Mossad for pulling that off. Yeah. So, yeah. So there it is. Speaking of the Daily Wire, before I move on to anything else, but speaking of the Daily Wire, I told you last Friday about the opening of Am I Racist? And I told you last night about some theaters that have decided to not show it. But here's the thing. They ended up being like number 4 over the weekend for box office receipts. So I don't think Am I Racist really is that much of a bomb. And in fact, they are still telling you, if you go to amiracist.com, you can still get tickets and try to force these people, essentially these cow towers to the left, to basically start showing the film and make it successful. So if you haven't gone to see it and want to go to see it, then go to amiracist.com and get your tickets at a local theater today. Okay. So one thing that has occurred, of course, is the latest Georgia school shooting. And I want to take a second to, first to take a sip. Okay. Of this fine Kentucky bourbon. This 10-year aged, it's actually 11 years, but 10-year aged Kentucky bourbon. But anyway, I want to take a second because one of the things that the left talks about all the time is that, the problem with school shootings is the guns. It's the guns, the guns, the guns, the guns. And if we just get rid of the guns, we will no longer have school shootings. Well, there's a huge fallacy to that thinking and to that logic, which actually isn't logic at all. And the fact of the matter is that when you go and take a look at studies of these children, and it is children who are doing this for the most part, but if you go and look at these children, they have some things that are in common. And yes, Bam, just to answer your question, yes, they did. I will get to it tonight. But one of the things that they consistently seem to overlook is how much of a factor, and of course, this is the left, okay? This is the left that is talking about this. But the factor of the home life, having a stable home life on the level of challenges that these school shooters have had, okay? One such point that was being made, this is an opinion piece in the Federalist, okay? But one such point that's being made by an individual, Beverly Willett in the Federalist, is saying that if we really wanted fewer school shootings, we'd work to end divorce. Now, I kind of read through the piece. I'm not exactly because I come from a divorced family, okay? My parents divorced when I was young. I was about 7 years old. And thankfully, my mother went and found another gentleman who was willing to step up and become my stepfather. But the thing about it is that the one thing that is in common across all of these school shooters, okay? And I mean, we can even step it up even a little bit farther, but all of it has to deal with mental health. And mental health studies have completely shown that mental health is directly connected to a stable home environment. And by stable home environment, what I am meaning here is essentially a father and a mother, essentially a two-parent household. That is what is traditionally and consistently been considered a stable environment. Now, not everybody has that environment. But that doesn't necessarily mean, just to preclude all of this, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are guaranteed to become a school shooter. Okay? But the challenge here is the fact that the left cannot, under any circumstances, admit the fact that a stable and proper home environment for children is the most important indicator of whether or not these kids are going to be successful, or whether or not they're going to turn into something that does like what happened in Georgia as well as many other places. Just like what has been consistently running through here is that the 14-year-old alleged Georgia shooter's home life was coming from a broken home. You had a mother and father who divorced, mother who ended up on drugs, hooked on drugs. And you had a father who at the time was maybe a little overly strict. But the fact of the matter is that if you have, and this piece clears it out and basically says that many of these school shootings, especially the school shooter from Sandy Hook Elementary, who killed 20 children and 6 adults, after, of course, shooting his mother in the head, came from a broken home. So did Centennial, Colorado school shooter, as well as the young man who walked into a Georgia elementary school with 500 rounds of ammunition. Of course, I'm reading from the piece here. And although the parents of a 15-year-old Michigan school shooter still lived together, reports indicated the marriage itself was troubled and the mother was having an affair. Now, according to an international academic study published in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine in 2018, quote, separation from a parent during childhood is strongly associated with an elevated risk for later violent criminality. And this is in contrast to children who lived continuously with both parents. The study surveyed a whopping cohort, a whopping amount of 1.3 million individuals up to age 15, specifically excluding children with deceased parents. Males accounted for 90% of the violent offenders. Another study conducted by the Institute for Family Studies in 2023, they conducted a nationwide analysis and found that strong families are associated with less crime. In cities, the crime rate was 48% higher in areas with a high number of single-parent households than in those with low levels of single parenthood. A decade earlier, Brad Wilcox, who was part of the University of Virginia. He was a professor there. He was author of a book called Get Married, Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization. He determined that nearly every school shooting in 2013 involved a young man whose parents divorced or never married in the first place. In other words, the correlation between the family structure and violent sons appears consistent over time. Now, I can tell you that if you look at the number of school shootings and when they began, we can go all the way back to Columbine, which was the first major school shooting, and you correlate that with the number of divorce rates in this country, you'll see a stark connection, not necessarily a causation, but a stark connection and correlation between the two. The number of divorces that are happening in this country, the number of family breakdowns in this country has grown since the 1970s and into the 80s and beyond. School shootings appear to potentially have at least a tangential connection to this statistic. And I can tell you, even before that, studies have shown that if the father of the house in particular was not engaged with his children, that those children had a higher rate of not only acting out in school, but also had a higher rate of not being interested in school, not finishing school, and things of that nature. There have been study upon study upon study that have come out. If the left listen to this, which is part of the reason why when I'm on social media, I sit here and tell people that one of the major factors, one of the major factors that have affected all of this has consistently been the fact that a fatherless home or a broken home, broken family, puts you in a larger propensity to act out violently, to be on the criminal side, criminal behavior, etc., etc. By the way, anybody that's over on Facebook right now, I lost the Facebook feed, so I don't know if I don't know if Facebook went ahead and said, no, you can't talk about that anymore. Probably the case. But anyway, interesting. I don't know. Not seeing any issues on my end, so hopefully everything's fine. Chevy is saying that the feed keeps freezing, but I can see the feed. I can see my feed hasn't changed much. Oh, there we go. Tommy is saying that I'm here, so it must just be me. Okay. Oh, I blipped on Rumble as well. Oh, okay. So that tells me that it might be something else that's interfering. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make here is that if we were to actually dig into the real causes of these challenges, we would find that it's not, and I'll say it again, it's not the gun. It has nothing to do with the gun. What we are talking about here is we are essentially talking about criminal behavior, mental health, family and community support for these kids, and whether people believe it or not, gun violence has a large correlation to a cultural issues within a certain segment of our society. A certain segment of our society. And no, that is not racist. That is merely pointing out facts about this entire situation. Folks, we have a cultural problem. We have a societal problem. This is not a problem with guns. Guns have been around and have been used. I mean, so many anecdotal conversations I've had with people with regards to, hey, we used to carry our weapons, our guns, our rifles. They'd be in rifle racks in the back of our trucks, and we'd be able to go off and go hunting after school. In fact, in some rural areas, this is still happening today. And yet, for whatever reason, the left wants to blame the tool rather than the real causes, which is essentially a breakdown of faith, family, community support, and the allowance of essentially mental health challenges that are running around on this, in this country. So I don't know how they can just dismiss all of this evidence that is placed right in front of them, that the breakdown of the moral and spiritual fabric of our society is ultimately a key factor, not saying the only factor, but a key factor in our particular scenario that we have running today. This is a challenge. Okay, there's one more article that I would love for you guys to check out. It's in the Federalist. It's in the show notes. Make sure you take a look. The title of it is "Our Constitution Isn't Dangerous, but Our Ignorance of It Is." I can tell you for a fact that ignorance of this thing is incredible. Incredible in today's day and age. All you have to do is go to some of my X posts, my Facebook posts, things like that, and just take a look. These people, there are so many people out there that do not understand the Constitution at all. And they don't understand, especially those who seem to think that the popular vote counts or matters in the presidential election. It means nothing. It hasn't since 1787, when this was signed and finally ratified in 1789. Speaking of the Constitution, just really quick, last little promo. If you want to get a fantastic copy of the Constitution to carry around with you all the time, that's going to last over 100 years, you can go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get one of these fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitutions to support the show. Check out this thing. It is 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather. The inside pages are water and tear resistant, and boy, look at that stitched binding. They didn't cheap out on using just glue. This is stitched all the way through the leather and binds everything together. It's a 100-year warranty. Free of manufacturing and materials defects. If you have a problem, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. I can tell you that it is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has assured me that the internal contents will get you your Civics badge in Scouts. It has nice rounded corners to prevent you from poking yourself in either the butt or the chest, depending upon where you carry this thing. And you can go and get yours today at constitution.americanperspective.online. That's constitution.americanperspective.online. And I do appreciate the support. All right, last thing for this evening. We have a fantastic Pet of the Week tonight. So let's go ahead and get that going. So here we are with Pet of the Week. Pet of the Week tonight was submitted by Coco Dominky. And here's what Coco Dominky says about this wonderful... it's a video, actually. There's a video and then a picture afterward. But let's go ahead and talk about this. So apparently this little girl named Mitzi, they had apparently given soft food. By that, that's canned food. They had given soft food to both Mitzi and her sister. I'll throw that in quotes. And when Mitzi was done eating, she performed a very interesting behavioral action that, of course, they found kind of funny. So I'll show you the video and the final pic. I'll show you the final pic of her accomplishment. And then I will go ahead and throw in my 2 cents on what I think the action actually is. But Coco finishes off with "Have a great evening," and then, of course, Coco Domingue. So here we are. Let's go ahead and get the video screen up and ready. And here we are with the action of Mitzi, the kitty, with her food. So for those of you that are on the audio portion of the program, she is essentially scratching around her bowl. And when the sounds that you hear in the background are the person taking the video who is trying not to laugh. But she's apparently scratching all around her bowl. And is attempting to what appears to be covering it up. And now she's decided that she's going to go ahead and clean herself, as all cats do. As all cats do whenever they are done eating. Well, here's the thing. So Mitzi was successful in doing this. And for those of you that are watching on the video, you can see it. But for those on the audio portion of the program, you can see that Mitzi was able to cover it up with a localized towel and some other kind of sponge or something that was also in the vicinity. So here's the thing, and this is what a lot of people don't seem to understand. Cougars, North American cougars, after they do their kill, will actually bury the food and come back later. They will eat their fill and then they will bury it and then come back at a later time, unbury it, and continue to consume. They also will do that, of course, when it's talking about their poop, not saying that their poop is going to necessarily be their food, but other species have been known to do this too, such as bears. Bears will also do that. They will eat portions of the kill until they're satisfied, and then they will go and cover it up for later discovery or later rediscovery for like a snack or whatever afterward. This isn't necessarily what you would think, but it is a bit of protection, I think, from the scent getting out elsewhere and attracting other animals and things of that nature. And some animal behaviorists have called it a mechanism to like mark their territory and so on and so forth. So yeah, so it's just, it's an instinctual reaction to doing something of that nature. I've actually caught our male cat, our indoor-outdoor male cat, doing the exact same thing, where they just sort of scratch around the food. And I think it's an instinctual behavior, probably hearkening back to making sure that if they don't bury it, it can be easy. It can be found easier by other predatory animals, I guess. So yeah, there you go. That's my thought, is that she is just hearkening it back to some sort of an instinctual motion all the way back to when they were completely wild. Because as everybody who is smart knows, even if a animal is domesticated, that doesn't mean that their instincts have gone away. So yeah. Well, thank you very much, Coco, for sending that in. That is a cute kitty doing what cute kitties do, which is essentially, in this particular case, covering up their food. I appreciate the submission for Pet of the Week. Do me a favor, if you would like to see your pet on Pet of the Week for Wednesday night, send me a picture, photo, video, whatever, and potential story about the pet, the particular pet. And you can send it on into fans. You can email it to me, fans@americanperspective.online. Also, don't forget that if the video is too big to send, you can use something like Google Drive or whatever and just share the link. I can pull it down and get it set up appropriately. But anyway, do me a favor and send it on in for Wednesday night's Pet of the Week. It's kind of hard to do it when I don't have pets. So send it in to Pet of the Week at fans@americanperspective.online. All right, that's it for me this evening. Hope you've enjoyed this Whiskey Wednesday. We will see you tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. And yeah, we will see you then, hopefully with some new news and some new information that I can spread across the ethosphere. Have a great evening for the rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.